Hey everybody, my name is Dalton Cole. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Digital Opportunities Group. We are an asset management firm, so we build out hedge fund products, but we also create tools and platforms for managing digital assets, which is what we specialize in. And today I want to talk about ChatGPT, which is a product that was launched by OpenAI late last week using the GPT either 3 or 3.5 model. It's been out for a few months, but this is essentially a new interface that's dialogue-based, which is pretty cool to play with, but also kind of blew my mind over the weekend, which I'm not usually impressed by new tech products, just because after you've built enough of them, you can kind of figure out how they work pretty quickly. With AI models, it's a little different. You still know how they work, but I'm constantly impressed by how far they've come so quickly. I know it's been a long time since the work has started, but just the increments of improvement over the last few years have been incredible, both in the image generation side, but also now in kind of text-based, dialogue-based assistant-type tools. So we'll start out, we'll just ask, what are you? And it's probably going to give us a boilerplate answer that it was trained by OpenAI and it's a language model. It's been a little slower today. It was very fast this weekend, but I think there's a lot of people using it at the moment. And a lot of people are very impressed by it. Okay, so AI assistant runs on a computer, not a physical entity. Pretty basic stuff. Who built you? Like I said, it was quite a bit faster earlier. Built by researchers at OpenAI. Here to help. Not a lot of patience. It really wants me to get to the point. So we'll restart a thread here. So this is just to start a conversation from the beginning. Some things that I think that it's going to really improve on, both my life as a CTO, potentially reviewing code, writing test cases, hiring people, as well as getting new employees up to speed if they're at a junior level, or if I'm hiring, let's say, a software engineer that has no experience in financial markets. But there's also other people. For example, my daughter, she'll be 5 next year. She'll be going to elementary school. A few years later, she'll be writing book reports. When I was in elementary school, the only technologies I had to really help me with classwork was a calculator, but my math always had to show my work, so it was only good for verification. Or I think we had encyclopedias at home, so I'd have those as well to do some research. But with this, so let's say she's in 4th grade. She wants to write her book report on, I don't know what books are popular now, but when I was in 4th grade, it was probably Harry Potter. I don't remember what the first Harry Potter was called, so we'll just say the first Harry Potter book. So write I think normally you would expect 5 paragraphs when you're in 4th grade. Maybe I'm underselling it, but okay, there we go. Response is pretty quick. Paragraphs are a little short. We'll probably get in trouble for that. I think usually they want 5 paragraphs of 5 sentences, but pretty good. Young wizard discovered his true identity as famous powerful wizard. Pretty good. I think we could probably simplify it a little more to make it more convincing that a 4th grader wrote it. Ride through report style of a, say, 4th grade boy. Okay, so you have language like it's a really cool book, which is not something you saw in the original report. It's definitely not 5 paragraphs. Let's see if we can squeeze 5 paragraphs out of it. Okay, so now we're getting more paragraphs here, even though they're just a couple of sentences. But definitely reads more like a 4th grade boy than the original one. Let's see if we get a language change when we say girl. I know that these models have been, I wouldn't say tweaked. I'm not sure what the training set was, but I assume it's pretty much most of the internet or written word. So they do try to remove some biases. There's a kind of a movement now that's against the censoring of these models, but it's really up to whoever publishes them to determine what's built into there. You'll see potentially some political biases. There's information it just refuses to answer. It's built by OpenAI. It's up to them to decide how these work. But sometimes you will see that the language is a little bit different. So you'll see when you ask it as a fourth grade boy, it's a really cool book. If you ask it as a fourth grade girl, you loved it, which is cool. So interesting to see how that's different. But let's say we wanted to do adult stuff, or how would you say it? Work stuff. So let's say let's say we write a Python script. And so when we use Python, we'll usually be building something for trading, say crypto futures. So let's say that trades the perpetual swap is a pretty useful tool. And we'll use CCXT. CCXT is an open source library. I assume it's going to be able to figure out what that is. I don't think there's a lot of confusion there. Okay, it's starting pretty well. So it's actually installing the CCXT library and telling you how to do that outside of the script, which is cool. Okay, so it's actually using a very generic exchange name here instead of actually including an exchange. Okay. But overall, it looks pretty good. Creates an order using the CCXT syntax. Yeah, pretty basic template. So let's say we want to use multiple exchanges and trade on the best exchange according to liquidity. Okay, so it's using multiple exchange names. So you'd replace those with a Binance or historically an FTX, Coinbase, Kraken, Crypto.com, OKX. Okay. Instantiates them here. Okay, that looks correct. This is a little strange, but I guess you would have different variables for each one. That's probably not how I would create those, but it potentially would work if you have the same key for each one, which I don't know how that would be possible. But the rest is pretty good. Okay, so we have liquidity. We set the best exchange according to which exchange has the best liquidity. Using this math, if the liquidity for the current exchange in the loop is better than the best liquidity, then it now becomes the best exchange. And then if a best exchange exists, then create the order on the best exchange. So that's actually pretty good. Pretty good code. A good starting place for sure. I think you would have to change the way you create your exchange instances, but other than that, it's pretty solid. Okay, so next you would want to write some tests. Some people write their tests before. We'll write them after. And we use pytest for Python. As you can see, you've got a couple of decisions to be made here, so you actually have to check which exchange has the best liquidity, so that'll probably be tested. Maybe even on creating the exchanges or sending the trade. Okay, so it installs pytest, so that's good. Okay, for each exchange, same as before. Okay, so now we've got our test. So we've got find the best exchange and trade the perpetual swap, as well as the description. So this is actually a really good starting point. It tells you how to write or run the test, which is pretty cool. Okay, so now let's have them explain the code for us. Say like you're explaining to a 5th grader. Looks pretty good. Okay, so it pretty much explains the code, and even explains what liquidity is, and yeah, that's pretty much all you needed to know to understand this specific thing. If you're familiar with CCXT, it expects some knowledge of a future contract, which most 5th graders wouldn't have, but still really cool. Okay, so let's see if we can make it a little more complicated. So write the script as a See if we can write it as an AWS serverless function. Okay. Pretty good. So Boto3, that's going to be your essentially your AWS library for Python. Lambda handler, that's normal. That would be correct. So it's actually really cool. And it explains how to use it in the AWS CLI and actually creating the Lambda, which is very powerful. Okay, so that's very cool. So that's if I got, let's say we hired a new engineer, junior or not, they know Python, but they may not know how the CCXT library works. This would be a great way for them to get started, and in 5 minutes they have a working understanding of how it works, and then as well as how to deploy some basic templates, and it's actually code up their tests. So let's start over, and let's say we've got an engineer that's a really solid engineer, but he doesn't necessarily know finance, right, or economics. He's strictly computer science. And he hears some words in a meeting, say interest rate swap. He wants to know what an interest rate swap is, which is reasonable. You probably wouldn't have come across that in school or in work. Okay, derivatives contract. Talks about the LIBOR rate. So let's simplify this a little bit. A little simpler, but it's still about the same. Hopefully somebody would understand this. Okay. Can you give me some people learn better from examples. Okay, so this is pretty powerful. So what it's already told us is what the current LIBOR rate is, and then what different scenarios are as the rate moves up and down. Let's see if it's correct. So A agrees to pay B, the fixed 5%, B agrees to pay A, the floating percent. Okay, so I think they actually have this backwards, because if the rate rises above 5%, party B will benefit from the swap because they were paying lower interest rate. Yeah, party B is paying the LIBOR rate, so they would actually be punished if the rate goes up above 5%, if I'm reading this correctly. Let's see if I tell it I think it's wrong. Okay, acknowledges it was wrong. Okay, so that looks great. Not sure what the confusion was, but when I called it out, it was correct. So now we'll say create a table. See if we can create a table. Okay, so it's got 3-month LIBOR rates. Okay, party A pays party B the fixed rate. Party B pays party A the floating rate. This doesn't look right. So I would assume the 6 would be paid by party B, because this should be a... So we'll ask it again. So it's pretty cool to see how it corrects itself. Okay. But you would have to know what was going on in order to actually know that it was wrong, I think. So now we'll get it really complicated. You can throw in some typos there. So what I want to see is if the nominal amount of the swap is $1 million, what is party A saving by using the swap? Okay, so this is really cool. So you can see, because they're paying a fixed 5%, they get a break even when the LIBOR is 5%. Anything below 5%, they actually lose money, but they're actually saving money or making money when the rate rises, depending on what their obligation is on the other side. So if they're paying someone else the LIBOR rate, then they're saving money with that spread. Okay, so that is super helpful. So create. I saw somebody use Excel functions in Twitter. Not sure if it'll work here. If not, still pretty cool. Okay, it actually does give you an Excel function to determine the cost savings, which is cool. You could probably get more detailed there. So what have we shown? We've shown learning a new topic, book report, we've shown some code examples. What's other issues I might have? Well, as a CTO, I might want some more budget, so I have to knock on Phil's door and say, hey, I need to write a budget proposal from a CTO to, well, actually write this to the CEO for a $2.5 million boat. Well, we'll see if it handles the typo. I've got my keyboard a lot closer to my body than normal to make room for the microphone, so my typing's a little jammed. Okay, pretty good so far. Dear CEO, I'm ready to request approval for a $2.5 million boat. Greatly enhance our ability to attend conferences and other industry events, allowing us to make valuable connections and stay abreast of latest developments. It includes the cost of the boat, any necessary modifications in case we need to really spice it up, and maintenance expenses. I believe this investment will pay for itself many times over in the long run, and strongly recommend that we proceed with the purchase. So yeah, I wrapped this up, shoot this in an email, and then budget approved. This is great. All right, final step. So we've got budget, we've got some code, then actually hiring might be another issue. A lot of times, if you're hiring engineers, you may want to groom them for, let's say, a management track. The best way to get them started there would actually have them conduct hiring interviews on their own. So let's say we want a junior engineer that we eventually want on the management track to start interviewing other junior engineers. He may not know, or he or she may not know what questions to ask. So let's say they may come to ChatGPT and say, what are some questions to ask? There's a crypto asset manager. Sometimes digital asset can be confusing. Okay. Because all these are extremely crypto and blockchain focused, not necessarily anything that works specifically for an asset manager. But I think it would actually also be a good start regardless. I wonder if you can write any Solidity code. So start with an automated market maker. So smart contracts would be a Solidity one might be something you deploy on Ethereum. For an AMM would be like a Uniswap. So you essentially create a token pool, and on one side is one pool, one side of the pool is one token, one side of the pool is the other token, and you swap between the two. This looks pretty good actually. So we're adding tokens. Oh, they're going through the whole thing here. Okay, trades. This would actually be your swap. Your from and your to. So those would be token A and token B. Okay. Hung up on us here, so let's see if we can get it to continue. Oh, misspelled. So I don't know if there's a limit on the output. Sometimes I've had to type continue in order to get it to finish, but this looks like it's working on a pretty long little script here. Okay. So now it's calculating what you would get when you're writing to. It's getting a little hung up on the code here. Maybe it's just the way it's been formatted. But either way, looks like it would be a good start. And then finally, let's say, what's a good one? Actually write a So let's see if we can write something high frequency that arbs between multiple exchanges. Alright, so we've got 5 exchanges here. Create the exchanges. Okay, I like the way it did this a little bit better than how it did in the past. Get the prices, create a function of trade, find the lowest and the highest price. So there's a significant discrepancy. So this looks like 1%. Yep, 1%. Buy on the lowest, sell on the highest, sleep 5 seconds. Pretty good. That's actually really cool. I hope you enjoyed this. I'll be playing with this a little bit more, putting hopefully see already kind of how powerful this would be as an assistant to get people caught up to work or caught up to speed at work, or just dive in and learn new subjects. Thanks.